BookTube, it's Angie. If you've been watching the news, you've probably heard already, but if you hadn't heard, the boxing legend Muhammad Ali passed away just a few days ago, and it dawned on me that I forgot that I had this book, Float and Sting, in one of my reading piles. I think it was for my Better World Books challenge, and so I thought, pay respect to his memory, what better time than now to get into this, since I plan to read it this year anyway. So this video I wanted to talk about this little graphic novel, Float and Sting. This is One Round with Muhammad Ali. This is done by Davis Miller, or it's written by Davis Miller. The illustrations are done by Andre Esparza. It's not a straight up biographical work. It's not just about the life of Muhammad Ali, although the sort of bullet points of his life are worked into it. But I just thought I would come on here and do a quick little review and talk about it because I read it just today. It took, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes. It's super short. I think it's less than 50 pages, but I ended up just loving this. It's so cute and inspiring, and it was great. It was one of my first 5-star reads in a while. So I thought I would come and talk about it. If you want to pick up a copy yourself, I will try to find the link for it and link it down below. This tells the story of Davis. I know the author went and gave the narrator his name, but this is about a 17-year-old boy. He's a high school senior in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Davis is coming up on the end of his senior year of high school. He's sort of on that cusp of adulthood, getting ready to go out on his own, but when we meet him, he's just had this lifetime of bullying. 10 years before, Davis had lost his mother in a car accident when he was 7 years old, and it devastated him, obviously. It hit him so hard that he stopped eating. He stopped talking to anyone for a while. He had to have all his nutrition done intravenously because he just refused to eat. The only thing that seemed to get through to him through the grief was he would sit in the hospital and watch these Muhammad Ali fights. It's the only thing that anybody could see a response out of him from. Davis grows up just idolizing Ali. This book works in a lot of, like I said, the bullet points, major events of Muhammad Ali's professional career. It talks about Davis watching on TV when Muhammad Ali is going through his draft evasion case. And if you're not familiar, what happened there was, I think it was in 71, maybe early. Actually, I think it was a little bit earlier. I think it was actually in the 1960s for Vietnam, when men were getting drafted into the military. Muhammad Ali was drafted, but he refused to serve in the military because he said it went against his standing as a minister in the Islamic faith. He was charged with draft evasion. He was sentenced 5 years in prison. He had his championship titles taken away. He had his license to box taken away. Everything. Davis, the character in here, remarks about how nothing seemed to faze Ali. He was like, it'll work out. And Davis was always really drawn to Ali's confidence in himself and confidence and belief in his abilities. And as it turned out, Ali just waited for a while, and the Supreme Court came back and said, you know what, our bad. We wrongfully charged you, and they repealed their verdict. He had all his stuff, as far as I know, I think he had all his stuff renewed. He had his titles brought back. He could box again. I don't think he ever had to go to prison. I think it was all just sort of acted like it never happened. Ali goes back into boxing, and one of the things I liked about this book was I know of Ali. I've heard stories of him, but I haven't sat down and read a full biography of him, so I don't know a lot of the details myself of his life. And likewise with his opponents. I know of them, I've heard of the fights, but I don't know a lot of the specifics. And one of the things that's nice about this book is it gives you a little taste of that to make you interested enough to go pick up biographies about these people. Like, they talk about Ali's fight with Frazier, and how the little fact I didn't know about how when that fight was going on, it got up to 100 degrees in the room while they were boxing. Can you imagine doing anything in 100+ degrees, but like boxing especially. Obviously they get into the fight with Sonny Liston because that's arguably the most famous fight of Ali's career. They also get into the fight Ali had with George Foreman, which, you know, younger viewers might be like, the guy that made the grills? Yes, that George Foreman that's now probably even more famous for his grills than his boxing careers, but back in the day he had a pretty notable boxing career. Ali was already an established fighter when George Foreman was coming in. I think Ali was a fair bit older when George Foreman came in. He was like the young upstart, but he quickly gained notoriety for having one of the hardest hits in the profession of boxing. And when that fight came up, which it came up right after or shortly after this whole thing with the draft evasion case, when Ali was just getting back into boxing, that fight came up and everybody was like, he's gonna kill you. And again, Ali was like, yeah, right. No, I'm not worried about it. They interviewed Ali right before that fight, and it was in this interview that Ali said that famous quote, or the quote he's famous for now, is he wasn't worried about it because he was going to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. And pretty much did. He won the fight. That's one of the things that the character in this book, Davis, takes away from all these things he sees Ali go through, is that Ali never seems to doubt himself, even though everybody around him is saying, you're not strong enough, you're not skilled enough, you're not going to get past this is going to stop you up all the time. And Ali's like, whatever, I got this. You all sit down, don't worry about it. And sure enough, he proved himself every time. I'm not saying he won every fight, because he didn't. He had losses in his career, but he never lost the faith in himself, at least from what I can tell from what I have read of him. I'm sure he probably, like anybody, had his moments of doubt, but he just wasn't public about it. I'll show you one panel in here that I liked especially that kind of shows you what I'm talking about. This is the panel that talks about the fight with George Foreman. And it says, Ali knocked out the supposedly unbeatable Foreman, and the only person that wasn't surprised was me. This is narrated by Davis. Suddenly, many people who had hated Ali now admired him. I admire Ali because he accomplished something so big, and because he did things that no one thought were possible. He has inspired me, and maybe now I can do something pretty good too. So I like that this little graphic novel gives young readers that message of, you know, be your biggest cheerleader. Don't be your biggest setback, be your biggest cheerleader. So this story goes on to talk about how Davis himself just gets to a point in his life where he's just like, damn it, I am tired of being bullied and beat up and spit on and teased and everybody thinking I'm a nothing. One of the things that troubles Davis in this story is all of that time with him trying to grieve the death of his mother and not eating. It seems to have stunted his growth now that he's in his teen years, and Davis never got past 5 feet tall. He's like, one of the things that it was a little bit of a thing, just a little thing that annoyed me about this is when you look on the back of the book, it says, it calls him 4'7" on the back of the synopsis. But when you open the book, on the very first page of the story, it says, I'm 17 years old, 4'9". And I know it's a little thing, but it's just like a little, it bugged me, because I'm like, really, you can't, whoever designed the back of this, you can't open up to the very first page and maybe look at the facts a little bit before you write the synopsis, just real quick. So it bugged me that nobody caught that. But just either way, he never makes it to 5 feet tall. He's also severely underweight his entire life. I think in this book they said he's like 60 or 68 pounds, something like that. And he's told by doctors to not expect to get much bigger. And he talks about how he has big mousy ears and people nickname him the mouse, which he doesn't really love, but he has all these things going on that cause him to be bullied a lot. And he just gets to a point where he's like, screw it, I'm not dealing with this anymore. And he decides he's going to become a boxer just like his hero Ali. And he starts working out and you know, eating all these meals to bulk up. And yes, you can expect a little bit of a Rocky montage in here, but like you can almost sing Eye of the Tiger when he's going through his transformation. But Davis works so hard towards his goal, he actually ends up getting a spot in Muhammad Ali's training camp, and he gets to meet Muhammad Ali and actually spar with him, which, you know, imagine when you're meeting your idol how amazing that goes down. So it's just a really inspiring story overall, and it's actually based on Davis Miller's own experiences. He actually met Ali and did spar with him more than once. I will link my written review down below. If you go and click on that, at the bottom of my review I linked a bunch of Davis Miller's adult nonfiction work. He's actually written like 3 different books on Ali's life. From doing all that work, he got the idea to do a middle grade graphic novelization of a lot of the stuff he's researched and discovered about Ali over the years. So this is basically just a middle grade compression of his adult books. But if you look at this and you are interested in learning more about Ali, I'll just say that that's in there. They're highlighted in green on the review at the bottom, and you can just click on the titles and it takes you directly to the Amazon page. Because when I just tried to type in his name, it didn't come up that easily, so I actually had to go like figure out where the link was. But they're all connected now. Also, I would mention for educators, homeschoolers, anybody like that, if you happen to be doing a unit on sports figures, Ali, anybody, there is a section in the back that has discussion questions and actually writing prompts, which I thought was pretty cool that they included writing prompts. Other thing I liked was at the very back of this, oh, there's also a glossary, which is kind of nice for young readers. But what I liked was they had this Muhammad Ali timeline. Back up so you can see that. That starts from his birth in Louisville, Kentucky in 1942 to when he won the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2005. The artwork is really nice. It's really colorful. It's got a lot of action in it. The one thing was, I know that Davis was supposed to be like underweight and small. The only thing is he's supposed to be 17 in this book, and he looks super, even like, you know, even for his health problems that he's talking about in the story, even considering that, he still looked pretty young for 17. But I don't know, it kind of reminded me of like Captain America before he goes through the transformation. He's like the scrawny little kid. Kind of reminded me of that a little bit. But yeah, it's just super fun. I'd definitely recommend it. There's also some really nice writing in here, just like the phrasing he uses, which I was really impressed to see in a graphic novel, because sometimes graphic novels, they can be really straightforward and it's just dialogue and you don't see a lot of like poetic language necessarily. The story is more in the action and facial features and stuff like that. But I noticed some of the sentences in here, like there was one that said when they're talking about boxing moments, there was one line in here that mentioned a 2-week-long second. There was another one where it talks about a guy swinging and missing and said he hit nothing but air in dreams, which I thought was, oh, that's kind of nice. Good stuff all around, a lot of fun. Like I said, I will link that down below if you're interested in adding to maybe this more like non-fiction area. I mean, it is fiction, but like more biographical area of your graphic novel collection. This is kind of a nice switch up from, you know, your vampire novels or your mangas and things like that. Just more like historical based, which is fun. So just thought I would mention that. And that's what I have for this video. We'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.